Hey guys, what's up? Just a quick update. I've had lots of questions about my training. I'm currently doing Sentinel training. I realized after I started my free trial for 14 days that I wanted to stick around because I feel like a completely different animal. I feel like I finally started reaching my potential, and it's all thanks to Taylor and Bryson. I mean, look me, I'm a fucking beast. Stop being a little bitch and go to trainingsentinel.com. Love you.
What up?
I never realized at the end of it he kisses, like he blows a kiss.
That's the first time I've heard that too.
Oh, really?
I noticed it there on that one, but maybe it ends early. Maybe Peter switched it or something.
Gotcha. All right, everybody, welcome to the show. We are Taylorless today. He is on the way to Wyoming to spend some time with his wife. I think it's their anniversary, isn't it? Or no?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it might be. Yeah, let's just say it's their
so,
anniversary just because. He's going to be, I don't know what he's going to do with himself. He's not going to be able to troll anyone. He's not going to be able to start fights on Instagram. He's not going to be able to start fights with me and Bryson. I don't know what he's going to do for the next week.
It'll be a good detox for him.
Yeah, true. So, yeah, the games are still on everyone's mind. Today, we are going to kind of dive in a little bit to the overall programming, but I think where we're going to end up is talking mostly about the unknown and unknowable. And while it's something that kind of we know is like a core tenet of CrossFit, the methodology as far as preparing you for life, but also, especially for the CrossFit Games, when you look at this year's games, it's not something that you see a lot of. You don't see much unknown. They knew a lot before the competition started. We don't see any unknowable as far as new implements or anything like that. So yeah, just a good conversation to have. What do you think about the programming overall, just as a test, not as a spectacle? Or I know it's hard not to think about previous years, but how did you feel about it when it was all said and done?
I think the biggest thought I have, like just the theme, is kind of what we were talking about after the first couple workouts were announced. Like, it's just like the class workout games. As a test, I don't think it was a bad test. I do think Jason was the fittest person, and I obviously think Tia was the fittest person. But it was a little bit, they didn't feel like games workouts. Nothing was super out of the ordinary. And I know we're going to, get more into the unknown and unknowable aspect later, but they didn't do anything that they shouldn't have trained for, if that makes sense. So every single workout, even before they were announced, even if none of them were announced until day one started, they should have been training every aspect of every workout they did. There was nothing that they couldn't have known.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think that's a great point, that while I think it was the right move to trickle out movements, to trickle out workouts, I think the biggest win of the programming overall was the behind the scenes videos that they put out about why they did what they did, why they chose to remove the bike erg from one workout and then put it into another workout, like kind of just the evolution of them. I mean, that's basically what you got in Dave's first book. And it's what you got for every single workout of the games, which I thought was great. But to your point, I think if they would have released nothing at all until the day before, maybe on Thursday they released some Friday workouts, and then on Friday they released Saturday, and on Saturday they released Sunday, I don't think there would have been anything outside of the crossover double unders and just being used to the stimulus of an axle bar at a heavy deadlift weight. Wouldn't have been anything that anyone would have said, man, I've never done that before. Yeah. Like, I think if you were saying that about the crossover double unders, you just were neglecting your history, and you just hadn't been doing your homework, and you or your coach just were playing too much of a risky game, I would say.
Yeah. And even if they hadn't have teased that movement ahead of time, you still, even if you're someone who's pretty skilled and you don't have to work on that stuff a lot, 2-3 weeks out from the games, you do a crossover double under workout. Even if you don't do it all year and it's not a skill you're going to lose, it's still something that you just touch on, even if they hadn't announced it ahead of time. So I wouldn't consider that unknown and unknowable. And yeah, I guess the axle bar is maybe the most out there thing besides that.
Yeah, and I
And
mean, Dave
again,
said that. He said that before the rest of the programming came out. And we were all just
oh
like,
yeah, that's
whatever,
right.
whatever. He's not. That's not true. And it was. The other times I can remember an axle bar being used in CrossFit Games programmed competitions was it was in regionals one year. They had shoulder to overhead into a front rack lunge. It was either 13 or 14. I remember that was one of the Rich Scott battles. And then at the games, they've done an overhead lunge in 2013 when Rich won. The Cinco's workout, the Cinco's 2 ended in an axle bar overhead walking lunge. They did a front rack lunge and up and over with the sandbag or what the different jump over variations and the muscle ups. I think they lunged to the finish on that workout in the front rack. And like there was another front rack axle bar lunge workout, I believe. But like as far as deadlift, the movement, no, I don't think they've ever done a deadlift with an axle bar in the CrossFit Games. So you could push back and argue on that. While we're on the subject, though, they knew that workout 2 weeks before. So it wasn't something that they hadn't prepared for and really stopped them in their tracks.
And I think if you're a perennial, you've done an axle bar deadlift workout before.
For sure. Like I think most of those athletes have probably done like an axle bar DT or something like that, just because you have to be prepared to do like twists on some old school classics.
Mm-hmm.
He said there would be some twists. Are you buying the increased distance of the run or the last handstand walk as being a twist? Because for me, I think back to those shows that we did with Sevon when all these workouts would come out and we gave our first knee-jerk reactions. And everyone was getting on to us, specifically you and Taylor, about your reaction to that deadlift workout, saying it's not going to be a long grind. It's not going to be a workout that's 20 minutes. It's not going to be something where 500 feet is just it's unprecedented territory. And to your point, and all you people that kept those receipts need to remember to keep the receipts when you're incorrect, because that reaction specifically that Bryson and Taylor had as it's not long enough. We're not going to have anything in the 15 plus time domain for the best athletes. People are going to be doing it sub 15. What ended up happening? He said on his weekend review that he had people test it in different camps, maybe that were on demo teams that hadn't qualified for the games that were really good. And he realized, hey, it's a little on the short side. And we specifically said, hey, the testing athletes are there to give data. What you do with the data, that's completely up to the people who are writing the workouts. And he made the workout 2 or 3 minutes longer by adding 500 meters of running and by adding a 50-foot handstand walk at the end that made that final 150 feet really slow some people down. And it was great for drama. It was the right move 100%. But everyone who was saying that you guys were being too negative, no, like they just know what they're talking about, guys. All we do is look at workouts and write workouts all day. And to look at that workout and just say, I don't think that's going to be what he thinks it's going to be. I'm giving them credit. Like that is the reaction that they should have had.
It made the workout a lot better to change it. And I said this to Taylor when we were in the warm-up area all weekend. When they announced that change, he was asking why I thought they did that. And I said, I'm sure Dave saw us talk about it. I'm sure he would also say he didn't, but I'm sure he did. And I don't think he would change it just for that. But I think him hearing us say that and then putting that kind of seed in his head, and then he probably had like Nate Ackerman tested or something when they all showed up at the demo, like the demo team all showed up in Albany. I guarantee you 2 or 3 of them did it and like blasted through it at like 13.5 minutes, 14 minutes and just destroyed it. And he realized, hey, they were right. It's not a 20-minute grind. And I think the things that he changed about it to make it the workout he wanted were the perfect things to change.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. Like it was probably my favorite workout of the weekend. From the way it looked, having 15 lanes do it, to the races that you saw, I mean, where we were sitting was cool too, because we could actually look at running paces and see like Gracie Walton holding Jay Crouch's paces for like the first 4 rounds and just be like, gosh, she's destroying this workout. That kind of thing was really cool. Seeing moves being made on the deadlift for a lot of the guys. And then for Lucy, I mean, being able to do all 5 rounds unbroken really is kind of what let her separate from Tia. And then seeing the handstand walk matter so much, and not seeing a handstand walk with a bunch of obstacles and like a skill setting. I mean, for me, it was probably my favorite event. And I think it was 100% the right move to make the change. What I just think is important to understand is that, especially for programmers out there that write competitions and they release all these workouts and stuff. I mean, this is the CrossFit Games, and Dave was still willing to say, hey, we need to make this change for the test. And at the end of the day, that is what's the most important thing. The most important thing is the test. I think we still had like 7 women sub 19 and 7 men sub 18. So it was perfect. And you still had some people time cap, which shows you too that there was a ton of separation, and some people just really couldn't handle it. I thought for anyone that did any workout all weekend, Jay Crouch's execution on that workout, you could argue Lucy's, was like one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. Like the transition from the rower to the first deadlift, from the deadlift to the first handstand walk. Like from the beginning, it was just like, oh, no one's going to beat him on this workout. And those 7, 8 guys in that last heat are all just crazy fit. And I just thought it was really, really impressive what Jay did.
Yeah. And even with the Rogue Woodways, like we were talking to a lot of people back there. I've never used one, but everyone who said that they used one said they're a bit slower. I think Proven only has Woodways. So I was asking a lot of the Proven athletes and coaches about that. But even with that, you know, like you said, 7 men and 7 women were under 17 with an extra 500 meters of rowing or running and extra 50 feet of handstand walking. That workout would have gotten dismantled, not just even because of the 2 minutes that you're accounting for on the 500 and then, you know, an extra 30 to 45 seconds that you're accounting for on that extra 50 feet, but just because of the pace of the overall workout. Like it's even more than that, because now if you're under that like 15-minute time domain, your pace the whole time is a lot faster. I think people are definitely going like, you know, sub 15 for sure. I think probably really close to the 14-minute mark, maybe even quicker if they don't make that change. Yeah,
I agree. So now
and we also pointed out that the problem was the testing athletes, and that Dave is taking what they're doing as games level fitness. And there's nothing wrong with the testing athletes in general, like JR kind of alluded to a little bit. You can test workouts properly with less fit people, but you have to know how fit they are. And Dave clearly didn't know how fit Rafa was.
Yeah, I mean the difference when you get especially to the final heat. And I mean Nate, like watching Nate do running Isabelle, I mean him getting like 240 or 241 like was crazy impressive, but people still went faster. And I think of all the workouts all weekend from a programming standpoint, that's the one that was another one of my favorites just because of how simple it was. And I've heard a lot of conversation about it being the final and how much more exciting that would have been. I think it just depends on what you like. Like some people think a sprint like that is too short for a final, with the drama that we saw from it, with like people blowing up on the last round, like specifically Jason. I mean, yeah, from like a dramatic standpoint, it would have been super cool. But who knows if that would have happened had the events been flipped? You know, no.
I think I like a longer final. I like to be able to see things change a little bit. I like to see a closer race for longer. Mm-hmm. And I really did like that workout. I liked running Isabelle. I think it was a terrible name for it. But I liked the workout. And the only thing I thought was disappointing about it is just it in context with the other workouts. Normally, I would really like that simplicity in a games workout, because you have other workouts that like, oh shit, this is a games workout. Mm-hmm. Like you don't do this anywhere else. You don't do versions of this anywhere else. This is just something you can't do unless you're at the games. And normally when you have stuff like that, then the workouts like running Isabelle stand out, be like, hey, this is just the simple test, and it's going to be really fun to watch because of that. And I think that's the only thing that ruined it a little bit for me, is just because where normally you want the simple one to kind of stand out for being so simple, it just seemed like everything was kind of like that.
Right. Yeah. And I want to keep digging into the individual events, but I think to that point right there, every year at the games, every single year, there's been some kind of thing that requires adaptation on the fly. And we can say on the fly is like a day or two, or on the fly is in like it gets announced right before you do it. Right. And this is going to take a second, but I'll go through it fast. Every year, the CrossFit Games. Next year is year 20. So we've had 19 years now. In 2007, they literally did a workout out of the hopper. In 2008, they introduced the chest to bar pull-up to competition. In 2009, they did the stake drive, parallel handstand push-ups, and they had ring muscle-ups in the finale. In 2010, they had ring handstand push-ups. 2011, they did monkey bar, softball throw, handstand walk, L-sit. In the earlier years, too, you get a lot more new stuff because you've had all these years of .com, and now you're doing it. 2012, they did D-ball clean. They did burpee ring muscle-up. They used the banger. In 2013, they did pig flip, legless rope climbs, weighted pistols. In 2014, they did deficit strict handstand push-ups and thick rope climbs. In 2015, they did paddle. They carried a yoke. They did pegboard. They did dumbbell squat snatch. They did kettlebell deadlift. They also all got assault bikes before that CrossFit Games. That was the first year they used assault bikes. In 2016, they did the snail. They used the Rogue Pro double under. They brought back ring handstand push-up. They brought back the pegboard. In 2017, they did cyclocross. They used Slater logs. They used the ski erg in competition. 2018, they had a workout called Chaos that they didn't know until they got onto the floor. They used the Rescue Randy to drag. They did an O course. They did low handstand walk P-bar. And they got announced it right before they did it, because the final that year was the pegboard with the yoke carry. So they got briefed on the handstand walk on Sunday right before they did it, and they showed them doing the low bar traverse. In 2019, they used a ruck. In 2020, they did drag rope double unders for stage 1. They did the ranch loop where they were told, nope, you're not done. You got to keep going. In 2021, they used a kayak. They used the Husafel bag. They did dumbbell overhead squats. They did freestanding handstand push-ups. In 2022, my gosh, that's like the whole competition, but they did strict pegboard, pirouettes, crossover double unders, press the handstand, P-bar traverse, P-bar dip, sandbag ladder, wall-facing deficit block handstand push-ups. In 2023, they pirouetted on top of a box. They did pullovers. They did sandbag squats. They did down and back P-bar traverse where they had to pirouette. In 2024, they did the hammer strikes, but they didn't do the hammer strike. So they still had something new last year, even though they didn't get to do it. And in 2025, as far as doing something unknown or unknowable and not knowing until right before they did it, they didn't have anything. The only thing they had was the increased run distance and the handstand walk. And yeah, if you're saying, well, they had the axle bar, sure they did. But remember, they were told that. I had time to order an axle bar for Jason so that he could test the workout because we didn't have one here big enough. So,
and that's not something that is unknowable.
Okay. Yeah.
That's maybe unknown, but it's not unknowable. Like a lot of guys have trained that.
Right. And I know that was long-winded, but I'm just trying to prove the point that every single year there's been something that's required adaptation that they haven't been tested on in competition before, or that they maybe haven't done in 5 or 6 or 7 years, something like the ring handstand push-up, and they were brought back. So my question is, because there wasn't anything new or anything reintroduced that really, really caused problems in the past, do you think it still crowned the fittest as far as we know what the CrossFit Games to be? Because for me, and we talked about this when the crossover double unders came out, and we said, hey, it's great. They got the heads up. And we did a show, and we said, if they're giving all this information, and not making sure that people have been doing their homework, then the stuff that they don't know needs to be really unknown, and they need to get the information right before. And we didn't have any of that. So for me, if they wouldn't have released the crossover double under and just said, okay, here's the workout, one of your workouts for Friday, and briefed it, and a lot of people would have been like, oh no, like for sure. And what could have happened, you know, may have been kind of a pegboard situation, just for a different reason, just for lack of preparation, doing the crossover double under, and someone may have taken a 30th, right? And it may have ruined someone's opportunity at the podium or whatever.
And I still think that wouldn't have even been enough. I don't think the crossovers, just making those the thing that we don't tell them until right before, is enough, because it's pretty recent and it's something that you should know as a games athlete now. You just have to touch.
And see, I would push back on you, just knowing that Dave seemed to be so turned off by that movement that I never would have thought he would have programmed it. Like, I think it would have been, it was really surprising when it came out, but I think the structure of the workout and the rep scheme had us all talking more so than the fact that, like, David even said a few times, like, yeah, I wouldn't have done that. When really he was talking about the first time it was introduced, there was so much new stuff in that workout that he thought it was just too much for one thing. I had heard that last year, one of the iterations of that P-bar traverse heavy rope workout was crossover double under. And, you know, Dave had a hand last year and was just like, no, we're not doing this. Like, let's make it heavy. So.
And I get what you're saying, but and maybe it's not something that you train all the time, but as a games athlete or someone who wants to make the games, if you're practicing them, or you practice them when they came out and you couldn't do them, I do think it is something that, just because you know it can show up now, and it's not some wild, like, so out there thing that's like hard to do in training all the time. It's a jump rope. You do double unders. Sometimes you maybe do triple unders, getting ready for when those come out. And then you do different variations of double unders. So it's not like it's something that it's so hard and out there to practice or remember to do. So I think if you're someone who can't do them, you need to do them until you can do them reliably. Like, you can just consistently do sets of at least 20 unbroken. And yeah, maybe they're not training it all the time, and maybe they didn't train it at all before, if they hadn't announced that. But the athletes who are really bad at them should have been training them enough to not be bad at them anymore. And then once you get there, cool. Like, just do regular double unders anymore. Don't worry about it as much, because Dave hates them, so they're probably never going to show up. I 100% agree with that. But it's not unknowable.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I was actually really glad that workout was in there. Other than just bringing the rope with you and putting it down and then going and doing something, like, that was the only part about it. And there's no way to lay it out, because you're not going to have multiple ropes to make it to where you can do the crossover double under multiple times and still progress down the floor. There's really no way to get around just carrying the rope with you down the floor. But I thought still, like, watching Lucy McGonigal, watching Danielle Brandon, there's a few of the guys that made them look so pretty. Like, some people got through and they just didn't look good. But I just thought it was really cool to see them done in competition, where you can compare, like, 3 years ago to how they looked. I was actually pleasantly surprised just how much each movement in that workout mattered. Not one person went unbroken on both sets of 30 toes to bar. I think every single person at least broke on set 2, and it was only 60. And that, I don't think that, like, a lot of people saw that coming, just because on paper you see 60 and you're like, oh, that's not bad. They'll just do those unbroken. Everything seemed to matter. Like, Justin and Danielle did all 30 shoulder to overhead on the right arm, I think. Like, they never even used their left, which is interesting, because to me, it's like, God, that one arm's getting blown up. But they're just so confident, I guess, with that movement. And having to switch arms just makes it take longer. So, I mean, just getting it in one and going. Like, there were walls, seeing if, like, the first people off the wall were the people that did well, or if the first people were off the wall blew up on that first set. Because it was kind of weird where, like, as the workout went on, the double under crossovers and the dumbbell looked easier. The very first set after the wall walks looked the hardest, which was kind of like, it's weird for the flow of a workout, but I was surprised how much I liked that one, honestly.
Yeah,
were there any events that you thought were going to be lame that you really liked, or vice versa? Ones that you thought were going to be good and you ended up just being like, that wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be?
Okay, let's go through them. So event 1 was the run and row. That one was cool. I think that one was probably even cooler than I thought. And I was a fan of it when it came out, and I liked it. But just the nature of those kind of workouts, they're usually not crazy entertaining, but I thought it was good and maybe a little bit higher than my expectation. 2 was which one was 2? Was that the one we just talked about, the crossover?
Yeah, all crossed up.
Yeah. That one was just kind of about what I thought it was going to be. Obviously, like even when we talked about the workout on here and we were talking about how it looks horrible on paper, it can maybe look fine on the floor. We were just saying like it can look fine on both. You could make it look good on paper and on the floor. And even on the floor, it was still a little bit confusing. Like you had to watch a couple heats to know what the next thing they were doing was, because they're bringing their jump rope back and forth. Yeah. So they're always moving in different directions than where they're actually progressing from. So I don't think, I thought it was just kind of weirdly written. I still think that, but it was fine on the floor. Event 3 was the pegboard.
Yep.
That one obviously was underwhelming because of all the issues with the pegboards. It would have been cool to see people actually race on that. Because there's a lot of people who were on really slick pegboards that are probably really good at them, like Ricky.
Right.
4 was Saturday morning. What was Saturday morning?
Yeah, that was the grip trip. So that was the axle bar deadlift.
Okay. Yeah, that one was good. Again, like it would have been cool to not have them be on runners, but I think maybe that one was a little bit better than I thought it would be because of the runners. I thought the runners would make it worse than it did.
Okay. Yeah,
I thought they were the worst thing in the world.
I thought in general they used them a ton. And gosh, I'm sure I don't want to know how expensive they are, but I do want to know because
the screens.
They were, that's so clutch. Like
very
they were
helpful,
they were used on that workout. They were used on the back squat for attempts and makes. They were used for the parallel handstand push-up. They were used for so many work. They were used for the handstand push-ups and the echo bike calories. Like those things just were awesome. And I thought on the runner, to your point, getting to know still how far ahead some people were. They're at 200 meters or at 300 meters. So they're still ahead by like whatever, 20 or 30 seconds was really good. And the next one was the back squat.
I think my biggest gripe with the running and deadlift workout after the changes, once they made the changes, they were good. My biggest gripe with it now is them just being on the runners in general, not because it looks shitty to watch. Cause like I said, the screens helped a lot with that, but you're just favoring a bigger athlete more and more. And I think that workout is way more like balanced, and not that every workout needs to be balanced. Obviously, 100 max back squat favors somebody who's bigger. And obviously Colton was like an outlier because he's not bigger. He's just a great squatter. But I think that workout was supposed to be like the really CrossFit-y, like 15 to 20 minute workout. And that's what it was. But I think it could have been more balanced with just regular running and just keeping people off machines, just too many machines. Okay. 5, the back squat was cool. I think everyone just kind of knows what to expect with the 100 max lift now. It's exciting. 6 and 7 was the couplet, or like the 2 workouts together.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a lot of stuff to say about this one. So
yeah, I don't know. I don't really like those ones too much.
So to your point about the machines, Sevon is like, he doesn't care about programming at all, but he'll lose his mind if you ask him about machines in CrossFit. Yep. So there were 5 machines in separate events this year out of 10. So you had the rowers in event 1, and Yeah, it was a running workout, but you saw how much the rower still mattered at the top when you looked at like how much ground Roman made up on Jeff, right? And then
yeah, like if you have like a baseline running capacity,
right,
it's a row workout.
So it wasn't a complete throwaway at the top, and at the top, a lot of people would argue is what matters. They had the runner in grip trip. They had the Echo Bike in event 8. In event 6, they had the ski erg. Event 7, they had the bike erg. So, yes, they had constraints, right? There are no field events. There are no opportunities to test running outside. Maybe some of the implements that you would have used, like carries or other kinds of odd object grunt work style stuff, sleds, all that kind of stuff, which wasn't an option. I get all that. And I honestly didn't think there was too many machines. Saying 5 out of 10 sounds pretty wild. But since one of them was running and the other one, the running mattered more, I'm okay with it. I don't think that the bike erg and the ski erg is what decided the event finishes. I do think whoever was off the ski erg first set themselves up for a really, really good score on event 6. Like, because 28 was unbroken for almost everyone on the chest bar. And you saw very few people make up time on the burpee. And while I think having those 8 boxes on the floor made that workout so much more fun to watch and so great from a spectator standpoint, I don't know that it helped or hurt the opportunity of passing. I think because of the little transition interruption every 3, we saw how Colton would just kind of step and dive forward into the next one, which was really cool. And he wasn't racing anyone when he did that. I think it was a necessary thing to do from a programming standpoint and a viewership standpoint. And I understood a little bit more why they used that number 24 instead of like 21, because they did 30, 5, and then 28. And then instead of 21, they did 24 because they had a section down there. You might as well just make them do 3 more burpee box jump overs. I was a little bit confused, and maybe you can help me with this, why they allowed them to jump off the box every 3rd rep, but on reps 1 and 2, they couldn't jump off the box.
I don't think there's any reason to not let them jump off the box when it's burpees.
Right, because they're not bounding anyway. Yeah.
Right. And
so I wonder, I would love to know why. Like, if they couldn't do it for any of them, fine. And they had to step off every single time, fine. But why could they jump off every 3rd?
That's important because people were talking about the burpee box jump over quarterfinal workout where all of them were burpee box jump over step down. And everyone was like, well, they're burpees, they're not bounding. But if you're doing it for every rep, you're just trying to get a desired stimulus. Leaving your foot up on the box and stepping down blows your legs up a lot more, especially having just done 50 wall balls. So I think there's a reason for it to do it when you're doing it on every rep. But not letting them do it for the step down. I mean, sorry, not enforcing them to do it on the 3rd rep, I think it was just kind of weird.
I was confused by that.
And I think it was a product of them doing the boxes like that because they had Rafa like messing around with that in the morning before they made the decision. I think they changed their minds about that. That wasn't originally the way it was going to be. It was going to be step down on all of them.
Okay.
And I think when you have the floor set up like that, I think that you just change the workout to let them do whatever they want.
Yeah.
I don't think you worry about making them do it on the 3rd rep or whatever, because it's a nightmare for judges. Someone's going to get missed. Someone did get missed. Multiple people got missed on jumping down or not jumping down. Okay. And it just is kind of taken away from the workout when you make every 3rd rep have a different standard than the others.
Yeah, it's fine. And everyone seemed to know what they were supposed to be able to do. I wondered if you could clear the box, and no one could give me an answer. Some people said you could jump all the way over, and other people said you couldn't, because what I was waiting for is on the very last rep in a race, would someone clear that last one just to get across a little bit faster? And I didn't see anyone clear the box at any time. So I guess it was just a standard that you couldn't do it. Is that right?
I thought I heard that you could clear it.
Okay.
Preventing rebounding on the 3rd one, you're propelling forward, just a guess. That's what we're talking about. There's no rebounding when you have to do a burpee. And on the 3rd one, they let them jump down anyway. So if you want to talk about rebounding to bound forward to the next box, you're allowed to do that anyway, because they let them do that on the third rep. So,
right. Yeah. I thought those being fast, I mean, we can get to time domains too. We will. Those being fast were great. I think that's the most full I ever saw the arena. Like Saturday afternoon and night was the most full it was, probably the loudest it was, except for when Colton hit his 570. And I wasn't there for the finale, so you can speak to that. Maybe you thought it was really loud when the men's heat was finishing up. I didn't do the workouts, of course. I talked to guys that did them. I think you can just look at the leaderboard, and you can see whoever did well on one most times did well on the second. So whoever did good on 6 did good on 7, and vice versa. Maybe not second and second. You still saw like a first and a third, a second and a second. Like you saw some really, really, really close and high finishes. I think that usually will just speak to the stimulus of what's being tested. And I think that even though you had the box, even though you were on the bike erg when everything started to set in, with the fatigue on all the jumping, having that set of 28 bar muscle ups, it became an upper body push and pull test. So it became an upper body stamina test. And having a back-to-back, so having 200 points, especially when it's out of 1,000 overall, that seemed to be testing the same thing, you could say, in a lazy way. For me, instead of having the chest to bars in there at all, I just would have taken the bar muscle ups and put them in the first one. And then on the second one, you could adjust the rep scheme a little bit, maybe to 21. You could lose the vest, have the vest, whatever. Maybe you have the ski with no vest and you have the bike one with vest. But I thought maybe something like a pistol, even though you had lunging, I still think doing something like a pistol with the bike and the burpee box jump over would have made it more of a leg test. And then you still have the upper body pushing.
It would have made more sense with the programming overall. There wasn't a ton of squatting anyway. And then
68 squats total.
Yeah. And then also the fact that you have 200 points back to back testing the same thing. Like we said, like I do think the first one was a little bit more biased to the machine anyway. So the better skiers did better in the first one, more so than the better bikers did better in the second one.
Right.
But I think both of them were still like already like weighted heavily. I mean, it's a power output workout. You start with a chunk of calories. You're rewarding the guys who are better on machines there. And like you said, there's 5 out of 10 workouts with machines. So there's already arguably too much in there. So I don't know. I honestly am not like crazy stoked about the test as a whole. I think it was fine, but I don't think the game should be fine. I think you should leave with no doubts. I think you should leave with memorable workouts, things that we're going to look back on, things that on a show in 10 years, we're talking about the same way we talk about chaos now or run swim run or things like that. Like just things that are really cool and things that you can only do at the games. There's not any workouts that we're going to talk about like that. There's too many machines, not a lot of squatting, nothing unknown and unknowable.
Do you think, because I do think there was a lot of legs in the back-to-back. I do. I think people's legs were blown up after doing those
I agree.
48 burpee box jump overs. I think event 1 was all legs. I think you still had a lot of legs with the axle bar deadlift. We kind of talked about it being an axle bar sometimes makes the upper body fatigue a little bit faster because you got the handstand walk, not as much legs, low back, all that kind of stuff, but still legs there. You had a lunge and thrusters, 68 squats. Obviously, the 1 rep max back squat is a leg test. So as we're talking, first one, leg test for most people, probably not lungs, but for some. Back squat, leg test. So there's 2. I think the rope climb workout was a rope climb workout. I think it was the 15 rope climbs and how good you were at those. So I'm going to say that the thrusters only made the rope climbs harder. So you could have just done shoulder to overhead and gotten the same thing, most likely. Thrusters probably made the lunge harder. But again, that was not, I wouldn't call a leg test.
And also, I think there's an important...
on the finale, for me, when I saw it, And I was like, okay, they did 3 heavy back squats. They did, they're doing 45 thrusters, and they did, where'd the other squats come from? I'm forgetting them. Where'd they go? 45, there's 68 squats total. Where were they? Oh, the clean complex plus front squat. So there's 20 squats there. And that was a pegboard workout.
Yep.
I would have liked to have seen like 21, 27, 33 thruster at like 95, 65. Like I just would have wanted to see a more volume squat workout. I thought it was fine, and I still think it would have been a rope climb workout. But because all the squatting was heavier squatting, like the complex and the back squat, I thought we would work out 100 squats, weight, whatever they were, wall ball, thruster, whatever. So is 68 squats enough? I think it was fine. I mean, I think Jason and Tia are both great squatters. Like, I don't think they have a hole in squatting, and that's why they won at all.
Right.
But just in general, from a program point, I look back to some of those years. They did Murph, and they did, a double DT and a squat clean pyramid. Like there have been days at the games with way more squatting than we had in the whole competition. So how do you feel about the squatting?
I think it's really important to clarify to people that testing leg endurance and beating your legs up is not testing squatting. And that was an argument that a lot of people had when WFP qualifiers and age group qualifiers didn't have any squatting. And everyone was like, well, there's a lot of legs. It doesn't matter if there's a lot of legs. And you honestly, CrossFit is all legs and shoulders. That's all it is. It's like quads and shoulders. That's what CrossFit is. It's so much of that. And these athletes can handle it. And you can have great leg endurance and suck at squatting. You can be good at squatting and have bad leg endurance. Just because we're testing a lot of legs doesn't mean anything. That doesn't even mean in any way that we don't need to test squatting, or that makes up for some lack of squatting. Because when we're testing squatting, we're testing flexibility, and we're testing your ability to move efficiently in those positions. I mean, a thruster it's not just about if you're a good squatter or if your legs have good endurance. If you can keep your torso upright and maintain a really good front rack and use your hips well out of the bottom of a squat, and then extend your hips before you press, all that stuff makes you really good at thrusters because you're good at squatting. You have great positions in the squat. If you're somebody who has insane leg endurance, but every time you get to the bottom of a thruster, you're kind of caving forward a little bit, so your back is blowing up now, and your calves are blowing up because your weight's way too much in your toes, and you suck at squatting, you can still do horrible in that workout with great leg endurance. So I'm not saying, I know you aren't saying this, but I know that you're bringing it up because people use, there's a lot of legs as an argument for why there wasn't squatting. And I think that's a horrible argument for not testing squatting. It's completely different. You can be good at both, you can be bad at both, and you can be good at one or the other, but they're different things.
So did you think there should have been more, just period, more squatting?
Yeah, I think there should have been more. And I think, like you said, a volume squatting workout would have been great.
Yeah. I also understand at the games level, the longer the workout, the better. But whenever you do light thrusters, like, you're just opening yourself up to like, they're not really locking out, or they're not hitting depth because they're trying to cycle them so fast, or whatever. Because we've had those workouts before. But I still thought seeing everyone break the thrusters, like on the round of 15, when we were like, no one's going unbroken on the 21, but like no one did on the 15 because they were like, I can't be blown up for the rope climbs. Like, when we go through the workouts though, like, there was a good balance within the linchpin of the workout, you could say. Like, there were workouts that were very gymnastics dependent. There were a few workouts that, were everything. I would say, like, the deadlift workout, everything mattered in that workout. The crossover double under workout, everything seemed to matter about the same. But then you had the workout where, like, hey, the pegboard really mattered, or hey, the rope climbs really mattered, or obviously the back squat, the weightlifting really mattered, or, I think that the programming overall, I do think was better than last year's. I do think they swung pretty hard and we haven't talked about this yet, but last year, you know, John famously just refers to it as the cardio games because there was a ton of opportunity for the people that were good on machines or just really, really, really enduring to do well last year. Look at the time domains. With the change to Albany Grip Trip, there was one workout over 15 minutes other than the run, row, run. So out of 10, there were 2 in the 15-minute plus time domain. There would have only been 1 had the change not been made. There were, I think, 6 sub 7 minutes out of 10. Now, I know when you do stuff inside, I know from a spectator standpoint, it is a lot more fun to watch fast workouts. It just is. You keep your attention easier. You have more exciting races, all that kind of stuff. What did you think from that standpoint? Did you think that it skewed too much to the shorter time domain, or is it just like, nah, man, most CrossFit workouts are 6 to 8 minutes at the games, which is
No.
true, but normally we have more than 10.
I think that it was heavily skewed towards like power output, and typically when you do that, it also skews towards a bigger athlete. And I think, you know, with talking about how many machines there were, one of the running workouts was on a machine. I think that is even, you know, more argument for that anyway. And I think part of the reason is because of the venue. And I get that, but that I don't think that locks you. I just think that gives you a little bit more constraints. I don't think it makes it so you can't make it a little bit more balanced. But this is what we see at semifinals. Semifinals the last couple of years, especially like the year that CrossFit did all the same semifinals, like all the same workouts across all of them. Semifinals tend to bias towards a heavier athlete because it's a shorter competition and it's all indoors, except for maybe one event, and if they got lucky or have a good venue. Yeah. So and those events typically scale towards a bigger athlete, and I think that's what we saw here at the games. They're indoors. It's a shorter games. It's 10 events and only 3 days when we're used to seeing a little bit more than that. I think that's kind of and nothing new either. This is completely anecdotal, but usually like the bigger guys are less athletic. And you know, someone's going to be like, well, this guy's really athletic, and name some dude who's like 6'5", and I get that, but
yeah. And two, it just depends on what it is. Like, even if Jason were here, he would be like, yep, that's me. If it's a gymnastics thing, he's like, dang. But if it's like, hey, we're going to do a high jump this year or a vertical, he's like, oh yeah. So like, it just depends on what it is with the bigger guys. Sometimes the more explosive athletic guys are better at what we think of as general athleticism. But then,
and I think Jason's extremely explosive, but I would say athleticism, I more think of adapting to newer things, and we didn't even really get to, and like the whole show is about, there's no unknown and unknowable elements. Those are the things that the athletes win.
Do you think if there was swimming, anything would have changed? And this is a fun question because Jason's not a bad swimmer, but you have James and Ricky in second that are both really, 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 really good swimmers. Mm-hmm. And you have Tia, who's the best swimmer. So It's like, if there was swimming, because we're accustomed to seeing it, right? I think we've seen it. I think every year since 13 or 14, we've had swimming.
I thought there was a year with no swimming.
Dude, I don't think so. Someone in the comments can correct me, but
what was 2023 swim?
2023 was
Adler won.
Okay, the year Roman got hurt, so that was.
Oh wait, was that the ski?
Skis, rinse and repeat, I believe.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, or is that 2022? Boz's first year was.
I thought that was 20. I thought Medeiros won the year that Roman destroyed that ski swim workout.
So you're right. Yeah, because Justin won in 21 and 22. Yeah, Justin won in 21 and 22.
Yeah.
And then.
Yeah, someone said rinse and repeat was 2022. I'm pretty sure there was no swimming in 2023. And it was a big deal.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe that's like the only year since 2013 or 2014 before this year, obviously. And everyone knows why they didn't. But swimming is one of those things that when you insert it, usually people just have a weakness there, and it's something fun to kind of switch up leaderboard, but it's not unknown and it's not unknowable. So it's it's just another thing that's like either in there or not, kind of like pegboard. Either
that doesn't change the problem that this show is titled about. And I don't think it's a problem that there was no swimming. I think that there should be swimming more often than not.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it needs, I don't know. Maybe it does because I also would say that there always needs to be squatting. You always need to pull something from the floor. And that's like an entirely like, that's its entire domain. That's a whole thing. Like if we want to talk about like, oh, squatting, deadlifting, running, swimming. Maybe I do think it needs to be tested.
I mean, we should probably have Taylor on this show because he is such a good swimmer. But I get a lot of pushback for this. For me, swimming is the most skill dependent / experience limiting monostructural movement. For instance, if you rode bikes as a kid, we all did in some capacity, most people. But if you don't spend time on a bike, you are not just going to be really fit on a bike and be great at it. But there are 80-year-old women at every aquatic club that can smoke any games athlete, some games athletes, just because they've been swimming for 40, 50 years. They're not fitter. They're just a better swimmer. So like that is just one of those movements that for me is so, I mean, I guess you could call it niche, but it's like, oh yeah, I was on swim team till I was 12, so I don't really swim a lot. And you have someone who's one of the fittest people in the world that swim every day for 10 years and they never get close to as good as the person that swam until they were 10.
Sevon talks about this a lot, but I think my argument for this and why it doesn't bother me is because you can be one of those people that's been swimming since you were a kid. And even if you didn't do it on purpose, because you're like, hey, when I grow up, they're going to invent this thing called CrossFit and I want to be the best in the world at it. And I don't want to have to worry about swimming. But it still was a choice. It was still something that you chose to do and other people could have chosen to do.
Yeah.
And you're putting yourself in that situation. With something like rowing is another movement that we consider a monostructural movement, but it's you pulling against weight, it's power output on a machine, and people do not have a choice about being 6'2" versus 5'6". So if swimming is really skill dependent, but someone who's 5'6" and someone who's 6'2", they're 5'6" person is going to have to row all the fucking time. Person who's 6'2" rows maybe once a week, maybe sometimes doesn't even row in a week because they just are so good at it and they have a really good engine. They have really good power output because of their body type. And that's something they didn't even choose.
Yeah, that's true.
And I know the swimmers didn't choose it because they were predicting the future or anything like that, but it was still a choice.
The thing that I like about swimming, because like running, you have to deal with your body weight, which is why like when you're sitting on a C2 machine, you're not having to deal with the fact that you're 230 or 175 as a female. It helps you to be bigger. But when you are actually on a bike that's moving and when you are running and when you are swimming, you have to deal with your body weight, meaning like you are pounding on your joints or whatever, you know. I don't know. It's a cool conversation. I think if you say you're the fittest person on earth, you should be able to run, bike, and swim. Like it's just one of the things. You should be able to run, bike, swim. You should be good with your body weight and you should be strong. So those.
Yeah, and it's not like, and obviously we know Tia's the best swimmer and Jason doesn't have like a hole in swimming.
No.
So I'm not saying Jason isn't the fittest on earth, but yeah, I guess I do believe that they should test swimming every year.
Yeah, and that's the nature of programming too. Like at the highest level, unless we have a Tia or a Matt or Rich, which there's only been 3 of. People talk about this on the guy side because it's so tight, but like there's 5 or 6 guys that if there's a high volume legless rope climb workout or not, can decide who wins the games. If there's a swimming workout or not, can decide who wins the games. If there's a Olympic 1 rep max lift versus a powerlifting 1 rep max lift can decide who wins the games. So a lot of people want to say it doesn't, like, programming doesn't matter. It does. It does. It does, unless you have someone that's so dominant and so good at everything that they're going to be able to overcome all of the ifs.
Yeah. And I think it matters not because we're saying, oh, all these were good tests and James just happened to win this one and Jason just happened to win this one because of the workouts. I think it matters to make the best test possible, to make the perfect test, because we are measuring fitness and it isn't a subjective thing. So when we say programming matters, it's not saying, hey, yeah, it could just go one way or the other. The fittest guy on earth could just be this guy on one day and this guy on a different day. The fittest man on earth is objective, and programming matters in the sense that you have to make the test perfect to find that guy.
Yeah, and like we kind of stopped going through the workouts. We got off on that tangent, but I think the next one was the Echo Bike workout. And you saw how much it mattered to be really, really good on the machine on the last 50.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked that from a programming standpoint, because I was one of those people that was wrong and said, man, why don't we just do 30 parallel for time? Now, it was still pretty correlated. Jason is good at parallel handstand push-ups. He's also amazing at the bike. So the bike helped him, like, pass Ricky and Jay, who were a little bit better at the parallel, but both still mattered a lot. And a lot, like Sevon especially, was just like, I hate this bike. I hate the Echo bike, because he saw that the bigger guys were able to close some gaps in a workout that on paper just was like, oh, let's just, like, whoever gets through the handstand push-ups the fastest is going to win. But the fact that those parallel were in there, I think were awesome, because if you take that movement and you make it 30 strict deficit, you don't have the same thing. You don't have the same outcome. The movements are different enough to matter. And I think that's where, like, me and you come from, and the people that get in the weeds on the programming stuff, is because the decisions that you make, do I do strict handstand push-ups or do I do kipping? Do I do dynamic press or do I do a static press? Do I do strict pulling or do I do a movement that you can use your legs on, or do I kip? Like, all those things really matter when it comes down to the totality of the test. Like, if there weren't any bar muscle ups, let's just say that there weren't any bar muscle ups in that workout, and they did, like, chest to bar and they did pistols. They just inserted those, and we had no muscle ups at all. People would be like, oof, we had pegboard, which, yeah, you get to use your legs, but you still, like, it's still kind of a stricter pull. And, like, we had rope climbs, but really that's just a grip. It's not really testing your pulling, because you could use your legs. So, like, did they have enough pulling? Like, people would be wondering that. Like, was there enough pulling? I mean, I said this on one of our shows, and I don't think it matters with the results, especially with Colton and Austin and Fee and Abby, because they're so fit. But a handful of athletes went the whole CrossFit Games season without doing a ring muscle up.
Yeah.
The whole season, because they didn't do them at the games. And when you ask a lot of people, you ever heard of CrossFit? Like, oh yeah, that's the thing where they do, they do the thing on the rings, like people think of muscle ups. I think maybe snatching and muscle ups. A lot of people think of those movements in handstand walk, maybe, when they think of CrossFit. Like, what is the CrossFit Games? Oh yeah, that's the thing where they climb the rope and do the stuff on the rings, right? Like, that's just kind of one of those things. So you can't have everything, which, if there are 12 events, I'm sure ring muscle ups come up. A lot of us thought they would do Amanda 45 for sure, because they didn't have a chance to do it last year, and they didn't, which I thought was kind of refreshing, because it kind of seemed like oh yeah, they're going to do this at some point. But yeah, I mean, I think they swung for sure from last year back in the other direction, which is good, I think, to keep athletes on their toes. But like even Dave said on his weekend review, or maybe it was when he talked to Sevon after Jason came on, he was like, people that really pay attention will be thinking about things that we didn't do this year that we'll probably make sure that we touch next year because of whatever reason.
I think the ring muscle ups fall into the category of something that, hey, yeah, it should usually show up, but also it shouldn't be a guarantee to show up, because there shouldn't be a lot of guarantees. And I think that's a distinction from, like, what we were talking about with swimming. at least in my opinion. Swimming is its own domain. So you should always swim. You should always squat. You should always pull from the floor. You should always run, things like that. But things like a muscle up, like getting your body up and over something, I think and then you can vary within that. You should always get your body up and over something. But if it's a bar muscle up, that's fine. So just things like that. I love ring muscle ups. I love watching them. I love doing them. I think they're a great movement, and I want to see them at the games all the time. But I think it's good that they're not a guarantee. And then just when we were talking about event 8, I think this event, just how we were talking about, there's too many machines. This event is where the machine belonged the most, in my opinion. I think the Echo Bike was perfect in this workout, and I think this was probably my favorite workout.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah.
Like on all the other ones, I like on the deadlift one, I'm like, hey, this should just be a normal run. In the double scored event, it's like, hey, we're testing the same thing back to back, and it's just a machine sprint. Like when you're trying to do some gymnastics, but all that matters is the ski. Like maybe there's an argument for taking the machines out of that one. But yeah, I think the Echo Bike really belonged here, and I wouldn't really change anything about this workout.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think Chase is doing a show tomorrow, like a professional analyzing the programming show, where he'll have pie charts and movement patterns and all that stuff. And I mean, I've gone through and looked at all of it, and it is pretty balanced. I think the choice not to do ring muscle up and to climb the rope at the end was 100% the move. There's a lot of pressing. There's thrusters, there's dumbbell shoulder to overhead.
They didn't need ring muscle ups, that for sure.
There's a 3 inverted pressing movements. There was all the burpees. I mean, there was plenty of pressing just in general. There were the 30 handstand push-ups. There was plenty of it. And I think that it was the right move to do rope climb for sure. I thought that the amount of hinging was good. We had 2 workouts with running and hinging. They were very, very, very different. I get that. They were very different. And again, I thought the snatch run would be the most exciting one to watch, and it was. It was the most exciting one to watch, just from oh my gosh, oh no, that kind of standpoint.
Yeah.
I thought it was programmed perfectly. The loading was perfect. It wasn't it could have been. No, it was perfect. It was perfect. Everyone was flying, and then on round 4, it started to look hard for some people, and then on round 5, people started doing singles, and people failed, and it was just awesome. It was probably the most well programmed workout I thought of the weekend. Maybe the finale, just from a straight up programming standpoint. The axle, I think, could have still been a little bit heavier for the females, and that's why that one's not in there for me from a loading standpoint. But I just thought it was great. There wasn't a ton of hinging, though. There wasn't a ton of squatting, but there wasn't a ton of hinging. They did the 60 deadlifts, and they did the 30 snatches. And those are the only 2 workouts with a pull, and by hinging, I mean pull from the floor, unless I'm not thinking of one that you can help me remember. No, I don't count getting the dumbbell to your shoulder.
Yeah.
I think that was it. So there wasn't a ton of that. What was more surprising for you? No GHD or no muscle up?
No GHD. I think I was kind of expecting to not see the ring muscle ups once we got this, because I was on board with hey, maybe we'll get Amanda 45, because we were also thinking they were going to try to do that last year, or maybe they announced it last year. I can't remember if it was confirmed or then got canceled or what. But I was expecting to see Amanda 45, and then once they announced the snatch workout and I started thinking about it more, I was like, you know what? I could see them not doing ring muscle ups this year.
Yeah.
But I thought GHDs were coming the whole time until they announced event 10.
Yeah. I mean, I think they had him in the warm-up area, and even Sevon, I mean, it shows you how long he's been around, was they always have them. I'm like, really? They're yep, they always have GHDs back there. It doesn't matter. They just always have them. And the teams didn't use them either. So it's not like they had them for teams and not for individual. I was really surprised, more so. I know the yoke is a lot of midline. I know a heavy back squat's a lot of midline. I know deadlifts are midline, guys. I know that. Everything in CrossFit should be midline. But the amount of trunk flexion only being 60 toes to bar is like, to me, is something I would never expect. Like, if you had 60 toes to bar on the CrossFit Games, you'd be like, okay, how many GHD? You're like, I don't know, at least 100. Like I would just assume there's going to be a ton of trunk flexion in some other way, because there just really isn't a lot. I mean, you think about a lot of those movements, and you're the level 3 here, but like, you are maintaining lack of flexion when you do deadlift, when you do like all that stuff, when you carry a yoke, like you don't want to flex, you want to maintain lack of flexion. So that was really surprising to me. I never would have thought. I don't think it affected the leaderboard at all. Like, but I was just really surprised not to see it.
So yeah, I mean, so now we have not enough squatting, not enough hinging, not enough hip flexion, but too many machines. So
I would say that I wouldn't say there wasn't enough hinging. I thought that was fine. I didn't think that like we didn't cover that. But
it didn't seem like it was missing. It seemed like squatting was like more squatting.
I was going to say, I think the squat one, and it kind of goes in line with the whole year. Like, we look a lot and we see the open only had, how many squats was that? 45, right? In the thruster workout that we did, wasn't it 45?
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yep.
No other squatting in the open. And then quarterfinals had a lot of back squats in that workout. So like the back squats, which I thought was a cool cohesiveness that online semis, not quarters. Online semis had back squat for reps, and at the games they did a back squat max. I thought that was cool. But like the age group not having a lot of squatting mandated. It's just kind of been the year of like, I remember when we used to squat all the time. I mean, Mayhem Classic was the only one that kind of felt like a 2013, 2014, 2015 regionals where there's like 3 or 4 out of the 6 that have a ton of squatting in them.
Right. And I think that's a good distinction too, because when we're talking about the total squatting, it's not just the total reps of squatting. Yeah, that is important because we do need to test volume squatting, but it's also the amount of points allocated to squatting. So you could do Murph and have 300 squats, but if it's one workout of 10 and you never squat again, somebody could be like, oh, well, there's 300 squats. There's enough squatting. It's like, yeah, but that there was as many points you could make up from being good at squatting there, you could get on the 1 rep max deadlift or whatever they tested and do 1 rep of a hinge. Yep. So I think just thinking about the points allocated to it is important too. And, you know, maybe that'll be some people's argument for the 1 rep max back squat, the thrusters, and then the squat complexes.
Since we know that the pegboard, and I think even if all the pegboards were super sticky, I still think it would have been who can go unbroken on the pegboard. Yeah. So
it's a pegboard workout no matter what.
So we have the back squat. Is 10% enough? That's the question. Is 10% of the entire test enough for saying, yep, the squats are what's going to decide this workout in one capacity or another? That's the question. Like, is 1 out of 10 enough? Like, you know, so
no, it's not. But
if it's 1 out of 6, like, and if you look back to regionals, like there's some years that they're 3 out of 6 was like, oh yeah, the squatting is what mattered most. Oh yes, the squat snatch ladder, that matters most. Oh, look at all the pistols, that matters most. Like it was, you know, one of those things. So that's it's just interesting how things have swung a little bit, especially with the implementation of the machines. And I think that's a conversation that will continue and that they'll have for sure on Get With The Programming. So if you guys want to check out a movement breakdown and stuff, we've already been rambling for an hour and 10 minutes. It's gone by fast though. It was fun.
Yeah, I think the biggest conclusion from this is someone needs to take Dave's place as the programmer, in my opinion.
Oh, you think that?
Yeah, I think he's getting lazy. We couldn't have gone on a show like this and had as much like as many objective points as we do. Like, hey, there's 64 squats, bro. Like things like that. I think before anyone's going to critique programming no matter what, but if it's well-programmed competition, everyone's critiques will be subjective.
Yeah. And that is a huge part of it. It's what do you like? Do you like a little bit more pulling? Do you like a little bit more midline? Do you like a little bit more gymnastics? Do you like a little bit more weightlifting? Like, that's true. But the points can't be argued in a super objective way when it's done well. I thought this one was done well. I thought it was better than last year for sure. I know there's some constraints, and I've talked about this before too with you. The more events you get, the easier it is, for sure.
Yeah.
The more events, the easier it is, because you have more opportunity to, oh yeah, and probably need some more squatting. Okay, let me slide some more squats in here for event 11.
Right.
Yeah, we probably need muscle ups. Okay, cool. We'll slide it into event 12. Like,
and now if you want all those other workouts to be the same, now you can add 3 more workouts that don't have machines.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes it a little bit better.
And it's like, oh, 5 out of 13, that doesn't sound bad. Like,
yeah, and then you can keep everything the way you wanted to, but yeah, I just feel like a couple years ago it wouldn't have been missed that, hey, half the workouts have machines in them, and they're all pretty important. I mean, maybe the least important one is the row, in the run row,
or the bike, because you had the 28 bar muscle ups right after. So I would say maybe the row or the bike. Yeah, biker.
I would, but so this is my only argument for that, because you're going into bar muscle ups and you don't need your legs. Now the guys who can really hammer down on the bike, is that the name of the event? I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah. That one, yeah, hammer down, throttle up, hammer down. Yep.
That wasn't on purpose. The guys who can really smash the bike can smash it so hard compared to the guys who can't. Whereas if it matters a little bit more, like it's going to affect the bar muscle up where the next movement is. So say they were skiing again or something. Now the guys who are a little bit smaller and probably better at the bar muscle ups can hurt a little bit more on the ski, because they know they're not going to need to be as fresh when they get to the rig. And the bigger guys who can just destroy the ski are like, hey, I got to tone it back just a little bit because I'm not as good at bar muscle ups as Colton. But when you have a bike and it doesn't affect the thing to come at all, and everyone's probably doing similar sets and reps on the bar muscle ups, everyone is going pedal to the metal, and the bigger guys really get rewarded for that, and makes the bike more important to me, and then the rest of the workout, everyone's going the same speed.
Yeah.
So now when it's just, hey, do whatever you can do on the bike, then it really makes it like that's the only place you can make up time.
It's almost like I can get a little bit of an edge here. Like, yeah, because afterwards it doesn't.
I can't get an edge anywhere else. No one can. It's like hey,
it's like if I can get 3 or 4 bar muscle ups in the bank, then I know that like I can still close the gap or whatever, because I got off the bike a little bit quicker. Yeah.
Exactly.
Another thing to look at too is like where the monostructural is placed. So like where the machine is. It started a workout in 3 of them. Mm-hmm. The run started 1, the shuttle run started 1, and then the treadmill started 1. So you have all your monostructural movements. I don't think we need to put crossover double unders in the monostructural. It's the only time I've said that with the jump rope, because I think it's just way too skill dependent. I think when we get to a point where people are doing 50 and 100 of them unbroken and it's just breathing, then we can put them into the monostructural bucket. I'll leave it out for now and just kind of put it with the gymnastics kind of, which is, I know, kind of funky to think about, but I think it is a little bit more of just a skill. 3 events with running. I wouldn't have guessed that. You told me there were going to be 10 and we knew run, row, run. I would have said we get 2. So when we saw the shuttle run snatch, I was surprised just to have a 3rd running workout out of 10. I think a lot of people were not. We went through it, how many years they've had running 3 times or more. But in all those years, they've had more than 10 scores. So,
Yeah, I think if you had asked me to put all my savings on it, I would have said 2. But if you would just ask me like casually, I would have said 2. I would have said 2 to 3. Yeah. And I also think the way they did it, the best runners won the first event, and then after that, I don't think it was the best runners.
Yeah, it was great. The way that they were put into the workouts, but they didn't decide the workout like we talked about. Yeah, it's one thing to track how many times movement patterns come up, but it's another thing to talk about what was the thing in the workout that mattered most. And sometimes,
which is the point we were making with the squats earlier, like how many points are allocated to the squats and in different ways, which is kind of the same argument. But
did you work out today?
Yeah, I did. I worked out this morning. I did a 10-minute EMOM of 10-calorie echo bike sprints.
Oof.
I did that last week too, and it was like the worst thing I've done in like 5 years.
Sounds
and I
so
was like,
bad.
Yeah, I was like, man, I need to do that more if that sucked that bad. And I also I have really bad power output in general, but especially on machines. And I do a lot of, just a lot of the common stuff like 2 on 1 off, or like max calories, 2 on 2 off, 3 on 2 off, all that kind of stuff. And like, it's like sometimes I can hide holding paces, but when a workout really comes down to power output, I'm just so far behind. So I think that stuff will be really good for me, but it was terrible. There's one of our members is a doctor, and he was like hovering over me, and I didn't even know, when I was like dying by the fan afterwards for like 20 minutes. And he was like genuinely worried about me, which made me kind of feel like a pussy, but I was seriously like,
that means you got after it. That's good.
And then I did some weighted pull-ups and then back rack lunges.
I did the class today, which was intervals every 5 for 5, 200-foot sled push with 145. So 50, 50, 50, 50, 20 cal skier, 20 GHD. And it was about, 215 to 220 each time. So 1-to-1 was the goal, and it was pretty bad. And then it was like a superset of bar dips and supine ring rows after that. I did one that is describing like a lot of the way that you felt. It was every 6. I did it on Monday, I think, maybe Tuesday. 20 cal echo, 20 med ball GHD, 20 cal echo. So it was like I was trying to get it done in 3 minutes, and under 3, and I fell off on the last 2, but it was really pukey. Like I was after the 3rd one, I was like, I really don't want to do 2 more of these at all. Like, they were bad.
Yeah, so workouts like that can make me feel pukey, but this is a great question. Either of y'all ever fallen asleep after echo sprints? Dude, that workout, I did the same one last week, like I said, or I guess it was 2 weeks ago, because it was before we left for the games, but the week of the games just went by so fast. All I could think about was wanting to take a nap, and I did it before I coached, which was such a bad idea. I did that both times, and I just wanted to lay down by the fan and fall asleep. I 100% could have.
Yeah, I admittedly don't do a lot of sprints like that. I think it's just like getting older and getting softer. Like, I just don't want to hurt that bad, and I'll admit that. But I don't know if this is an age thing, but like ever since I turned 35, so for the last 5 years, after I do open workouts, usually I want to take a nap. Like, I want to fall asleep. And I think it's just because I go harder than I do in just regular training.
Right. Even if you try to in training, it just doesn't matter.
I just think there's something about it, something about having a judge, something about being on a leaderboard, which is why I try not to compete, because I just care too much, and I just like try to go as hard as I possibly can. So
yeah, the only reason I did those echo bike sprints this morning is because I was getting to the gym before I coached with like enough time to do a short workout, but like not a ton of time to warm up or anything like that. And I was like, hey, I just want to get my training started earlier today. And the idea popped in my head. And as soon as it did, I was like, man, if I don't do that, the only reason is because I don't want it, because I'm being a pussy. Like, the only reason, the only thing I have to not do it, the only excuse I have not do it is just because I don't want to so bad. Yeah. And I changed my mind like 20 times on the drive to the gym. And I was like, no, I'm being a pussy. I got to just do it.
Greg said it a long time ago, and he's not been wrong about a lot of things. Almost everything when it comes to fitness is that the one thing you don't want to see coming out of the hopper is the thing that you should be doing. And the one thing you don't want to do is the thing you should do. So yeah, it's an easy lesson. Crucible online qualifier is live. We're going to be putting out a lot of stuff between now and next Thursday. Workouts will come out. Equipment list for the online qualifier is going to come out later today. I can't wait to get a ton of positive feedback and people not complaining about what they need access to. That's going to be good. Yeah, just from, I guess, the next 2.5 months leading up to Crucible, we're going to try to put out a lot of stuff. Taylor is going to do one of the online qualifier workouts next Saturday, which is going to be sick. So you can not only sign up for the qualifier and submit your video, but you can try to kill him too, which you have no chance of doing in the workout that he's going to do, but you can try.
This question could be like a whole show, so you only get to answer yes or no.
Okay.
And then I'm going to end the show with an ad. Would you ever, doesn't have to be soon, but like you start talking, you have the option to start talking about it early or whatever. Would you ever put a pegboard in an online qualifier?
No.
J.R. Howell, man, he gets it. He's your favorite programmer's favorite programmer. If you're sick of being down there and want to be all the way up here, join WPTH now. You want to know the crazy thing about hate? We prefer it. We prefer the hate.com. Tell them Beasley sent you.